Hi everybody, and welcome to our New Learner Welcome Forum. I'm here to say a little bit about Dr. Jeffrey Olson. All right, so Dr. Jeffrey A. Olson serves as the president of Nightingale College after previously serving as the vice president of learner experience and the provost at the college. He has dedicated 9 years, as of this December, of services to the college and has over 2 decades of educational experience in a variety of public, private, for-profit, or non-for-profit, corporate, and healthcare settings in both classroom and administrative capacities. His dissertation was a phenomenological study of teacher orientation to the subject of social studies and the perception/application of use of technology aligned to that orientation. Dr. Olson holds a bachelor's degree in history from Brigham Young University, a master's degree in secondary social studies education from Pacific Lutheran University, a master's degree in instructional design and technology from Western Illinois University, and a doctorate degree in instructional technology and learning sciences from Utah State University. Dr. Jeffrey Olson.
All right. Hello, hello, hello. There is a moment where I have to apologize to Mary. I do this to everyone. Phenomenological is the style of study that we're looking at. It's looking at a phenomenon and the study of a phenomenon. I have harassed people about how to pronounce that forever. I had members of my dissertation committee who couldn't pronounce it correctly. So it's become kind of a thing within the group here about how to say phenomenological. So apologize for the moment when she pauses, said it. You probably heard some chuckle. That is, it's one of those very obscure academic-y things that no one ever talks about. But in any event, I'm Dr. Jeffrey Olson. I'm pleased to be with you guys today. I do want to note, we are here in Boise, Utah. There's just a handful of folks here in the room with us. That's by design, partly. Recognizing that there are over 2,000 of you who are also tuning in the broadcast. So there are a lot of you who are starting today from all across the country, and we're going to take a look at that population here in just a second when we look at where you are and where you're distributed. What does this group coming together look like? Many of you are probably logging in at home, so you're not thinking about the large institution that you have now joined. We want to make sure that you see the largeness and the number of who your incoming class looks like and are. So we're going to take a second to look at that. I do want to note that as we go and do these forums, you're also during your program going to have what's called the Future of Nursing broadcast that's going to happen. Mikhail, who is the CEO of the Nightingale Education Group, will be doing those. He also travels to different cities around the country to smaller populations of individuals. Part of the reason we do that is we are headquartered in Salt Lake City, but we are nationwide. We don't want to stay in Salt Lake City all the time and broadcast everything from Salt Lake City. We like to get around the country and to also get to some of the larger and the smaller environments where we have learners. Everyone who joins Nightingale is important to us, so we want to make sure that we are getting around to the different parts of the country and getting to know those areas, meeting with healthcare partners, meeting with politicians, meeting with those who are in those spaces so that we can better understand healthcare nationwide, so that we can better prepare people to serve nationwide. So while we may not be in the largest group this morning, recognize that that is partly by design. We're here to better understand the areas that we serve and get to know our learners, our alumni, our healthcare partners, our politicians, all those who are stakeholders within the educational experience as we work to create a better Nightingale College. Now, let's dive into you. All of you across the country, all of you who are logging in. If we look at the distribution of where you are throughout the country, we are now as an institution a little over 9,000 at Nightingale College, all in nursing, right? It's all that we service as a service line is nursing education, and there are over 9,000 of you, which makes us one of the larger institutions for servicing nursing education in this country. As we look at where that's distributed, yes, there's a lot of you coming out of California. That is known and well known. We do occasionally make it into California as well. We have some initiatives. We'll talk about some of that a little later on. But you can see we're evenly distributed across the country in a lot of different spaces. The only state we currently don't have an active learner in is Little New Hampshire, right here. They graduated not too long ago, and we've not had a replacement come in from New Hampshire. But we have learners in all other states right now representing. Now, a little bit more about who you are as a population. Yes, you're all over the country. Those have individual and unique needs, but there's more that we know about your population here. When we look at the age, almost 90% of you are outside of what's considered the traditional college age bracket. That means a lot of things. It means you have a little bit different life experience. Many of you may have started an educational journey previously or earned a different certificate. Some of you may have started college and never finished. So you may have some experience in higher ed or may not. But the idea here is that we know that you're not the traditional age, which means you also have other commitments. You likely have other financial commitments, you have family commitments, you have job and work requirements that are also taking up your time, your energy, and your resources. So again, there's a lot to be said for what we need to do as an institution to help provide for a slightly different population than the traditional college-aged group. In addition, if we look at Pell Recipient, it's a federal financial aid designation for individuals who earn about $52,000 or less on an annual basis. So don't look at that as being it's a negative, it's just an indicator. When we look at that, we have about 55.39% qualify underneath that heading, potentially for financial aid. That is a support mechanism for those who would be considered on that designation as financially underserved. So recognizing that, there are other pressures that come from potentially being what they designate as federally underserved economically, right? So there are things that we need to provide as an institution and be cautious of as we think about how your resources are going to be strained to go through education. When we look at first generation college student, 47.46% of you have neither parents gone to college, which means the vast majority of you, that's how they designate traditionally, that there is first generation college. You're the first generation perhaps to get an education at a collegiate level. And that's significant for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of economic impacts that can happen for a family, ripple effects for being the individual who goes through the college experience. But that also means that you may not have family support or understanding about what a college experience may look like. You may not have a prior expectation or how the systems within college education are structured. So it puts a little bit more pressure on our institution to provide what supports would be necessary to help you navigate this experience, to do better within that environment. When we look at race at the top, almost 80% are identifying as non-white under the federal designations when you do your categorization for racial classification. Now the reason why that's significant in there is nationwide, nursing education right now and nursing as a field is about 80% white. Now, there are lots of research sociologically. We could go down a whole rabbit hole here if we wanted to this morning. I'm talking about that those who represent or are reflective of the community that they serve, that community has better health outcomes. Now, that's not saying that we need to replace all individuals who are white with non-white, but it's saying in communities that are more diverse, more diversity improves health outcomes in those spaces, right? We want representation in those communities to improve the outcomes. So recognizing that across the nation, the vast majority of the nursing field is white and our national population set is now about 50% and expected in the next 10 to 15 years to be about 40% of the total representation of the population. There's a long gap between the representation that would help the health outcomes in the nation. So this is significant in what it represents when we look at how we're distributed nationwide and the diversity of those environments nationwide as well. We get over here into the income. Again, that's just a bigger breakdown of those economic indicators of how our populations are currently financially pressured as you're thinking about what resources you have to contribute towards your education, contribute towards your family, your other commitments that we've talked about. There's some strain. That also means that we need to do what we can to try to alleviate that strain or to not create additional burden as we're thinking about how to deliver the education that you're seeking. And we also get down to number of dependents, and that also creates different pressures. There's time pressures, there's financial pressures, there's ability to find space perhaps depending on your financial situation. There are a lot of different factors that dependencies, whether they're adult dependents that you're taking care of, grandparents or parents who are now in a place of needing that care, or whether we're talking about children who also require that care. But it puts a different level of pressure on an individual that, again, if we're looking at traditional age over here, other college environments may not traditionally have and may not traditionally need to deal with. So again, it puts a little bit more on us as an institution to find out how we best support the flexibility needed to work around commitments that you may have in that space. So the point of showing this is to show that we are recognizing that the population is not the traditional fresh out of high school, commitment-free, financially supported environment, but there are lots of pressures. You come with experience, you come with perhaps other college experience, you come with work experience, you're coming with healthcare and providing experience. There's a lot more that you're bringing to the table here when we're thinking about creating an educational environment that is supportive of you and your growth. One of these pressures, again, we do know that as part of the program, you are going to need to go to experiential learning, direct focus care. It's a very long title, which many people refer to as clinicals. These are the direct focused care experiences inside of clinical settings that are the experiential learning component of your education. Currently, these are where we have facilities located around the country. You can see the distribution of the map. Very heavy over here, but there are no facilities in the state of California. Anyone who came in through the admission cycle knows it was discussed and put in the disclosure. Everyone from California needs to travel right now to a different part of the country in order to fulfill those direct focus cares. That's part of California state law. Love California, they don't play nice with others. We all know this. And so there is a little bit of a strain that does come into that space. If you're coming from one of the other environments, again, you're looking at neighboring states or areas that are close. We have some initiatives that are happening in several of these environments, these different states. We do send out notifications if you are residents of those individual states and would like to help and support to either change state law or to help provide some learner experiences about the strain that this may put on you as a learner to have to travel outside of your geographical region. Because we are seeking to remedy that and to provide the educational experiences as close to home as humanly possible, as close as we can provide that. So pay attention to that, but recognize that travel may be required. Those were all part of the disclosures that you had in the admissions cycle, but we do everything we can to try to keep you as close to the localized environment as we possibly can, recognizing some of the constraints like California that requires some travel in that space. And we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A as we get a little bit later in. But understanding who we are as a population is one thing. I want to take it from that larger perspective about how vast the group is, and I want to break it back down now to you individually. Each of you individually. Don't worry, the folks in the room, I can see you giving me a panic stare that I'm going to start talking to you directly, and I won't. Those online, you are not safe. I want you to also be thinking very, very much about these questions. Why are you here? Why are you here? Why did you choose nursing? Why did you choose Nightingale? What are you hoping to accomplish? What do you want to get at the end of this journey? Education is always hard. It's always challenging. It will never be easy. It requires growth. And there's no growth in the comfort zone and no comfort in the growth zone. So recognizing that that's true, you will be stretched. What do you want to get out of this? What are you hoping to achieve? And what is your anticipated end goal? At the end of this stretching, at the end of this discomfort to get to that next level, what do you want to pull out of this experience? Now I want to highlight this in a slightly more directed way, and I want to use a model that's called the hero's journey. Now, for those who are unfamiliar, Joseph Campbell was a professor. He passed in the early 90s, but he was a professor of mythology, and he wrote what he called the hero's journey. He looked at mythologies and stories through time, through cultures all across the world, and he created a path that nearly all of them very cleanly fit within. Different steps, different pieces, different components of that. Now, obviously, this exciting 17-step path is a little bit more advanced than we're going to get into. We're going to take a look at it from this inner circle: return, separation, and initiation. And we'll lump those different constructs into just 3 different segments for the purposes of our conversation today. But looking at that, you can take it into traditional myths and legends, even religious stories. You can take it into pop culture for the purposes of today to avoid controversy that may occur when talking about different religious aspects or mythologies that are deeply held. I'm going to use a little bit of pop culture to highlight some of these stories. So thinking about this in terms of Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, they also follow the hero's journey. They follow this pattern in creating the narratives that create these epic stories that we appreciate in pop culture as well. So while you can't apply these to Hercules or Krishna or other religious constructs, even the story of Jesus Christ in the Bible can follow along the same pattern. We're not going to go down that road today, as I don't want to say anything that may potentially either mischaracterize or offend. So we're going to focus on pop culture, but recognize that this does fit a larger envelope of storytelling, myth-making, and even religious narrative as we think about how these affect individuals. Let's start with the separation construct. This is where you are today. This is the ordinary world. This is the world that was last night on your sofa. So this is what exists. This is Frodo in the Shire. This is Luke on the farm. This is Harry Potter living under the stairs. This is the world that they live in. This is the existence that they know. And in that space, there is a moment where they hear the call. It's a call to adventure, is how Joseph Campbell refers to it. And they have an opportunity to accept or reject that call to adventure. Even after family dies, Luke could have stayed on Tatooine. He could have stayed on the farm, rebuilt. He could have stayed in his existence and rebuilt that space. Frodo could have stayed in the Shire. He didn't have to leave. He could have elected to remain in that beautiful Shire. You still have Harry Potter. His letter came. He could have stayed under the stairs. He didn't have to go anywhere, right? He was still safe. It was not great, but he could have been there. His world existed, and what he knew existed. All of these individuals had a chance to accept or reject the call to adventure and to move forward into the unknown. When each of these individuals choose to accept that, there's a mentor. They meet a mentor. They meet someone who helps to guide that journey. There's the Gandalfs, there's the Dumbledores, there's the other individuals, Obi-Wan, who walk them through their adventure, who give them knowledge, who help them to understand how they can navigate something different than what they had previously known, something that is unique to their previous environment. The world of Obi-Wan does not look like the farm in Tatooine, and there's specialized knowledge that he needs to navigate that space. The magical world of Harry Potter, he needed a Gandalf to orient him to that space, right? Each of these different spaces has something new, something that pulls them out of the world that they previously understood into something that is unique. And once they cross that threshold, their limitations are unknown. Each of those individuals see huge arcs in our pop culture space of who they become, what they can do, and who they impact over time. Once they've committed to that journey, that aid follows. Now, pulling this into the space that you're in now, your chosen world, the world that you exist in, your ordinary world, as it's referred to again in Joseph Campbell's space, is the world that you were in yesterday. You have elected to hear the call to nursing education. Coming into this space, it's gonna be a challenge. That's the reality of the space, right? All educational experiences will carry with them challenge. Hearing the call, you have an opportunity to accept or reject. You don't have to do nursing now. You don't. You could comfortably stay in the status quo that exists for you at the present time. That's a reality. That's a choice. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it is a choice. accepting or rejecting that call at the present time. But if you accept, there are opportunities to meet mentors, to meet guides, to have support. In our environment, we'll talk a little bit more about what we provide to try to help support you through this space, but you also have other mentors too. You have family, you have friends, you have others, you may have co-workers. Most people who come into nursing at this stage are working in a healthcare environment and have others that they can also question and ask and gain insight from. But we're in a space now, if you choose to accept, your limitations are unknown. What will you become? What will you become in the next 10, 15 years? Will you become a nurse leader? Will you stay at the bedside? Will you go into political environments? Will you become an educator yourself? What can you become? What influence could you exert? We don't know. That's entirely up to you and your journey. But it's significant to consider, what do you hope to achieve out of this journey? Is yes, there are short-term things you may be thinking about. There may be financial benefits. There may be flexibility for working with family, opportunities to really improve your current situation. Those are wonderful. By all means, hold on to all of those. Those are fabulous. What you can become 10 years down the road or 15 years down the road, what does that look like? What could that be? Who could you be in that same space? But as we start that journey, accepting or rejecting the call, you've all accepted. We will go under that assumption for now. We've accepted the call and we're moving forward. You leave the known world. That comfortable couch, that Netflix account that got a lot of play over Christmas, probably is not going to get a whole lot of play going forward. There's a willingness to grow that you've accepted as part of hearing the call, as all of our other heroes has, as Harry Potter did, as Luke Skywalker did, as Frodo Baggins. They all have growth. They were willing to grow. They were willing to accept something new and different. That's where we are. But this is the part of the journey that is not the happiest part of the journey. And I want to be very candid about that without being too glum. In the hero's journey, once we leave the comfort of the status quo world behind, there's a period of time that's called the trail of trials, the road of trials. It's discovering potential. And in that time, you're tested, you're tugged, you're pulled in different ways. In mythology, you have Hercules who goes through his labors, right? They're called labors, but they're trials. They're things he had to overcome. Harry Potter has his trials that he overcomes over the arc of 7 stories, things that he had to do before he became the end state journey. Luke Skywalker doesn't become a Jedi in the first movie or the second. It's really the third, and you could contend even later that he truly becomes the Jedi that he was destined to be, right? Frodo doesn't become the hero until after Mordor, and that's 6 hours in. Like, we've gone through a lot of journey by that point in. There's a lot that happens in that space, and there's a lot of struggle in that space. There are temptations that are attempting to lure them off the journey. There were many times where any of those characters could have said, whoop, it's too much, I'm done, I'm out, checking out, moving back, going back to the Shire, heading back to the farm, gonna go back to the stairs. I can't, I can't, it's too much. And many of those trials were destined or designed to provide those opportunities for people to fall out, drop back, take a step in a different direction. They chose to move forward. Themes in traditional mythology and storytelling can be overcoming love, power, even life and death, kind of overcoming selfishness or independent desires for the good of others. When we talk about overcoming love, it's not overcoming love in the concept of not having it anymore. It's overcoming the trial of love. It's being willing to exert yourself into that space or being willing to give more love into an environment that didn't have it. So that's more of what Joseph Campbell is referring to in that context. But there may be opportunities where they could take ultimate power. Frodo could have put that ring on at any time, and you saw what happens to individuals who take that power on themselves too long, right? even life and death. The stories that get into the recent Broadway musical Hadestown, right? It goes into the story of Euripides and what's happening going into Hades, and there's a whole series of life and death struggles that happen within that space as well. This myth making happens all the time. But this is the part that's significant in this space. The original goal that these heroes set out to achieve may not be the goal at the end of the journey. They may start out with one trajectory and it changes over time. That's okay. Some, at the end of that journey, don't really wish to return to what their life had been. Let me give you a quick feeling if we break this back down into your experience. Going through educational experiences are hard. They require a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of resources. Some of the support models that you have along the way may not be there at the end. Some family, some friends, there will be those who start the journey who may not be there at the end of the journey. I lost grandparents along the way. I lost friends along my educational journey. Those can put quite an emotional toll on your resources while you're already stretched in school. There may be financial things that come up that put more strain on you and your family. There may be health concerns that emerge that you don't see now. They all may try to knock you off the path. This is the part that I say I don't want to be too glum, but these are realities. This is part of living. And knowing that we're already stretched or strained, having left the comfort of the status quo and moved into an already stressful space, to have more stresses that crop up that we can't control can be quite challenging on this journey. Part of the thought process I want for us to think through is also, how will we respond? How will we react? How will we stay on a journey path to get to our end goal? Now, the goal may shift slightly, that's fine, but how will we stay on this path of growth? Noting that those things can occur. It's a reality. As we look at that, some individuals at the end of their journey don't wish to go back to what was. Look at Frodo. The end of the film, he ends up back at the Shire. He looks around and says, "What's next?" I'm not the same person I was when I was comfortably here. I want to go adventuring again. And we have, after 7 endings, he gets on the boat. But you have Luke. He never does go back to the farm. You have Harry Potter. He never ends up back in the regular Muggle world. He stays in the wizarding world. They've all changed as the result of their journey, and what they thought they were doing to end up back in the place they started is different. It's like that T.S. Eliot quote, "At the end of all our adventuring, we will come to the place where we first started and discover it for the first time." As we go through the journey, it may not be the same place we started, and that's okay. But we need to be comfortable with understanding that growth can change who we are and what our goals are as well. Let's talk about this return phase. So we've talked about separation is choosing to hear the call, receiving our mentors, receiving our support. We've elected to start this journey. Now we go through the hard times. We trip over the stones. We have mentors who come and go. We have struggles that try to knock us off the path. Those things happen. That's the reality of the separation phase or the initiation phase. When we come back to the return phase, some of us may require help to return. How do I readjust to life in this new reality that I've created, that this journey has helped to create for me? We may work to retain the wisdom again, even share it to the wider world. There are lessons we learned, now we want to share. How can I help other people through the situation? That's a valuable gift to be able to give back to folks. When you've gone through hard times, to be able to share and help them through their hard times. That is a gift that you can provide. Learning to find balance again. Life's changed, situations have changed, maybe finances have changed. Maybe those that you're supporting have changed, and the needs have changed within those spaces. How do we balance life on the other side again? This is the phase, in reality, where the hero is genuinely transformed. It's one of the things that, as much as he got a lot of grief for it, Peter Jackson kept going with endings at the end of Lord of the Rings. We have almost a half an hour of film after the ring is in the volcano. And it shows us what happens when people got back. How do they readjust? Who did they connect with? What's their life afterwards? That's valuable. We don't normally get that in Hollywood. Hollywood stops at the end of the initiation. The trials are over. Huzzah! We celebrate. Now what? We never get that in Hollywood. We just get the struggle to release. But that return phase changes who the people are. It changes how they experience life. It's where that lesson from that initiation period becomes who they are. As you think about this journey, right now we're at the separation. We're starting this journey. We know that the journey to get to the end of this line, to become an RN or to become a CNA or to become an LPN or a FMP or a PMHMP is going to be hard. Whatever your endpoint is, you're going to go through lots of struggle to get to that point. That's life. And I don't mean to over dramatize it or we all know that this is real. Who do you want to be at the end of that journey? What lessons do you want to pull, and how do you want to share those lessons? What is that person in the return phase? How will you be transformed by whatever struggle you need to go through in this phase to become the next version of who you will be? What is that next best version of you? And how can whatever you go through in this initiation phase help you to become that next best version of you? Now, I can't tell you what that version will be. That's entirely up to you. What it looks like, how you want to present. The best version of you is up for you to determine. But think about it. Who is that person? And how can what I'm going through help to change me into them? Again, this is where the journey becomes part of the hero. So as we're thinking here at the beginning of this journey, saying, yes, I have my goal. I know what I'm going to do. I know it's going to be kind of hard, but I'm going to get there. It's all good. Take it a step further. I agree with you. I'm with you. That is laudable. I will celebrate with you. I will be cheering at the commencement celebration along with you and your family as you get your degree. But this journey will be more to you than just that. So think about that in this early stage. What can it be? What is that version of you? That paper can help to symbolize triumph over the trial, but it won't necessarily symbolize the new version of you that you can become. So who is that? Think about that. Start crafting that as you think about the next journey. All right. That's a quick overview of the hero's journey. We could go through lots of depth. I can nerd out with you all day about all those different stories and about all the different ways that pop culture is using the hero's journey to craft its narratives and stories. But we're here for you. You've heard the call. This is the phase. This is that early separation phase. You have 12 days to commit to the call. That's the end of what we call an add-drop period. So for those of you who are not part of the traditional academic parlance, it means that you have basically 12 days obligation-free. If at the end of 12 days you decide, you know, I was too optimistic, it's not the time yet, no blame, no shame. I'm happy that you know yourself and your situation and your context well, and you're not getting yourself into a situation that you will not be able to finish. For those of you who are able to continue on and you've said, I've evaluated, I've thought about it, I'm ready, I'm hearing the call, let's do this. By next week Friday, the end of that period, that's when you're in. That's also coincidentally when federal financial aid says, great, you've invested. So also letting you know that that is an important deadline when we talk about it financially, which is why we have the add drop period too. If you end up in a situation where you decide it's not yet, you can still get out and not be punished, right? That's important to know. What are your time periods for not getting yourself into a situation where it's going to be harmful? I don't want harm. I want to make sure if you're here, you're committed, and we will do everything we can to help try to support you. But again, it's up to you to decide that that's where we're at, and that now is the time for you. So that threshold again, note, noon. Need to let us know by noon next Friday if you're electing that now is not the time. If you're staying, you don't need to do a thing. Just keep going, progress in your classes. We are here for you. We will help support you through. But if you decide that now's not it, that's okay. No blame, no shame. Understand. But you need to let us know by Friday. Friday just before noon. One other thing that I'd like you to consider in this, is what I have here on the board. What is the purpose or the why of your journey? The why is important. Why have you elected to gain whichever level of nursing credential that you're currently seeking? Why now? Why nursing? Why? Consider your personal why. Is it to better your family's situation? Is it for financial improvement? Is it to set an example? We have some individuals who have elected to come for nursing education in their late 60s, not because they really want to practice at the bedside, but they want to inspire their family. That's a great why. That's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that either. Others are needing financial improvement. That's a great why. Everybody needs to have a stable home environment and to feel like they're able to provide for their loved ones. It's a beautiful why. Don't be ashamed of it if it's a purely economic motive. But consider what your why is. Consider it. I'd also encourage you today, first homework assignment, my prerogative. There are no points, so it's like, whose line is it anyway, where points are made up and they don't matter overall. But I do want you to consider this. Please do this. Write down your why of why starting nursing education. And I'd like for you to send it to your LSS strategist. That's your learning support specialist. That individual is partly one of the mentors that we are providing you here at Nightingale. As an individual that will help you navigate Nightingale College, we're a large organization. We've got lots of different departments and functions and support models and things that we've created to try to help you to be successful. They are the person that we have assigned to help you to understand what is available to you. Internal resources, external resources, what is available to help you be successful on this journey. And when you get into spaces where you think there is one trial too many, there is one boulder too high, there is something that is just too much for you to manage at this present time in that initiation phase, and you may have to drop out of the path, call them. See what we have available for you. See what we can do to support you. They'll also help to remind you of your why. This is why we started. How can I help you achieve that why? What are those things? One of the big tragedies for me, and I'll be very blunt about this, many people are coming here for economic reasons. I get that. We saw that at the beginning. Many people are not what the federal government would call financially served, right? They're underserved populations economically. I hear that. The biggest tragedy for me would be, you start this journey, you take out loans, you don't finish. Now you have loans without the ability to repay. We have not improved your situation, we've made it worse. That to me is a hideous tragedy that I want to avoid at all costs. So again, if you're getting into a space where you're worried about your ability to stay on the path, reach out to your LSS strategist. Let them help you to find resources, to find balance. If we need to figure out a different way to approach your education so that we can get you to stay on the path to get done, I want you to reach your end goal, and I want you to do so in a way that helps support your why. I don't want to see individuals in that second situation who start and end up in a worse situation. So please take advantage of the resources we have available to you to try to make sure that you don't become one of those learners who we have not helped to improve, but unfortunately, their situation has now decreased. So again, you have until next Friday to double check, make sure that you're committed. You've heard the call. I'm excited that you've heard the call. I am so hopeful for you. I am very excited to be on the commencement stage and to celebrate with you. If now is not the time you need to delay, again, no blame, no shame. I get life is rocky for everyone. It's a different path for everyone. Let us know before noon next Friday so that we don't put you in a bad situation. If you are committed, we're with you. And I would encourage you, first thing, figure out your why. Figure out your why today. Make it powerful. This is what's going to carry you through that initiation phase with all those troubles, with all those struggles, with all those things that may get in your way. Why are you doing this? What will carry you through hard times? And let your LSS strategist know so that they can also be one of those mentors and guides to support you along this journey. Other support models, again, we talked about, we have a lot of different kinds of things that we've established. We have the Learner Resource Library, there's math, English, and some early science that we've put into that space to help. If you need some help and support in any of those areas, they are there for you. They're very much happy and thrilled, in fact, if you use them. You have your learning support strategist that we've been talking about already. So Learner Support Services Strategist, that's why it's LSS Strategist. I know I've been shortening to Learner Support Strategist, but it is Learner Support Services Strategist. They are there and they will be with you for the whole journey. Again, we mentioned that some people come and go a little bit. Your faculty are there in an individual course. You may see them again in another course later on. They're always here at the school, of course, and you can always reach out and get their support. But recognize that individuals that will be there through every semester along that journey, your learner support strategist gets to know you and knows what's happening from beginning to end. So they may be one of the major through lines through your journey. I'd encourage you to reach out and get to know them a little more. I would also encourage another thing. A lot of times we get into a space where we say, I'm going to blend this into my life. I know I'm going to get it in. It's how I've been successful anyway. I just always am able to get everything in that I need to get in. I would encourage you not to do that. I would encourage you to schedule it. Put it on your calendar. These are my block out times. This is when I am busy. This is when I'm doing school. I'll say this from personal experience. I have done everything from independent study to correspondence courses to distant learning courses to campus-based programs to in-school programs. I've done every kind of educational environment you can think of along my journey through all those degrees that you heard at the very beginning. Any of those that I had that were remote or distance, I could often find a reason to put them off. There was always something else that took priority, and there were several classes that I had to get extensions on because I just didn't schedule it in to make it the priority. I don't want to see that happen for you. Don't blend it in, schedule it in. Literally put it on the calendar. That's experience from my own experience. Make it the priority. Put it in there. Yes, some other things may come in, but have a backup. If this is your scheduled time and something's going to come up, maybe you have another time that's scheduled in the day that's your overflow. If I don't get everything done, here's my secondary time. That way, if life intervenes, you've still got it scheduled. How to access some of those resources, again, they are available. You'll see them in your courses. You'll see them on the sides. If you have any question on how to get a hold of them, get a hold of LSS. They are there to help guide you through the bureaucracy and the systems that Nightingale has. We're a large organization. There is bureaucracy. I am sorry. Your LSS strategist is designed to help you navigate that. We're trying to make sure that you don't have to figure it out for yourself. Call them. Let them help you. Let them help support you. All right, another component of this that is also significant. When I'm talking about blending in and scheduling in and all those other things, it would be valuable for you to take a look that while we are here as an institution, help trying to support your intellectual and occupational success, those are 2 of 8 dimensions of wellness. Now, of course, there are other ways you could break this down. This is not a holistic in the concept that it covers literally everything that makes a human human, but this is a useful construct in considering the dimensions of how individuals operate in the world. So, I recognize there are limitations. It's a tool. We use it as a way of kind of thinking about individuals and their balanced wellness. Now, why I bring this up right now in the orientation is a series of questions for you to consider, now listed on the side here. When you're thinking about yourself in preparing, you've heard the call, you're ready to start. I love that for you. I'm here for you. We're going to make all the effort we can to help you to be successful in that space. There are other dimensions of your wellness that we need to consider as well. Where do you see balance now? Do you feel socially balanced? Do you feel spiritually balanced, however you experience spirituality and however you choose to engage it? Do you feel financially balanced? Do you feel emotionally balanced? Is the environment that you're currently operating in supporting your well-being? Do you feel environmentally balanced? Are you physically balanced? Are you in a place where you feel balanced? If not, where are those areas that you feel are strained, pulled, tugged, in a place that's not fully aligned? What might you need to do to try to pull in some balance? Here's the thing about the dimensions of wellness. If I'm going to start a journey that is intellectual and in nature, I'm going to be grabbing this thing and I'm going to be pulling it. When I pull, because I'm now straining that dimension of my wellness, as I grow, what's it going to do to all those other interlaced pieces? It's going to tug. It's going to tug. It's going to start to distend. When you start to make that kind of pull and tug, other dimensions are going to go with it. So I have to consider, what can we do to create balance? Because if I'm already heavily pulled in one direction, in one of these dimensions that's not quite where it needs to be, and I start pulling on another one, it's going to be really challenging to hold it all together. And if we pulled too hard on any one of them, it could be one of those points where it feels like a breaking point in our journey. So the reason we bring this up in the orientation is I'm not trying to be dire. I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here. It feels like I've talked about a lot of things that could be very, very depressing, and that's not the intent of this. But I want to create some awareness around things to prepare for, things to get ready for, things to consider as you're starting this journey to make sure that we have ourselves in a position to be successful. So I would consider, take some time today as you're thinking about your why. Also consider, what are some things I may need to work on to create balance within this holistic person that I am? Are there things that I may need to do to create space so that these things can live more harmoniously than they have? I realize that obviously we've chosen to start a journey that's going to tug a little bit on our holistic wellness. At the same point, what are those other support models that will help to pull it into alignment? Do we have a social network that will help us to still feel grounded? Do I feel like I have a spiritual practice of some sort that helps to feed my soul? However that looks to you, again, I'm not dictating anything there. Do I have enough financial support that I feel like this will be a little bit of a strain, but I feel I can balance it? Is there enough that I can balance this without breaking? Do I feel like I have the emotional awareness or a support system that will help me when I get too stressed that I can balance emotionally what is happening in my world so that I can pull the other things back into alignment, right? With each of these, you can kind of consider, where am I presently? What might I need to help improve? And what support mechanisms or models should I consider? Again, not dictating how any of this looks for you, but what does balance feel like for you? And are all of these dimensions currently being addressed in your life? Is there something there to support them? That's the exercise, is to really consider, what do I have to help support, to balance, that will help to create a model that will help keep me more or less from looking like a spiky ball and more rounded as an individual. That make sense? Anything a little bit weird? Okay. Worth considering as we're going in. All right. As we're thinking about these dimensions of wellness, I also want to give you, this is quite literally from the statistics we have internally, about the top 5 reasons people fall off the path, right, during that initiation phase when things get hard and the boulders get big. First one is no academic activity. We are an attendance-taking institution by Department of Ed rules, so this is federal law. If 12 days pass and you do not engage in your courses, we are obligated by law to remove you. So if you go 12 days with no activity in any of your courses, you are withdrawn. Federal law. I can't change that, and that's why I'm making it very clear. Schedule it, don't blend it. Make this a priority, or else you may be inadvertently pushed off the path. Not because we want to, not because we're harsh, not because we hate you. There's none of that going on. It is federal law. Because there's federal financial aid involved, 12 days of no activity to them signals that it is an inactive account and they refuse to allow us as an institution to continue to take money on your behalf, which, bless them for having a rule that we can't continue to take money if you're not attending. But it also means you have 12 days every single time to make sure you are engaged in your courses, or else we have to withdraw you. So, number one reason we withdraw people is that it was blended in, not scheduled in. So take the time to schedule. Please, please, schedule the time that you will do your schoolwork. Second one is personal issues. These range varied. Won't go into major details there, but there are things that we as an institution can't overcome that are personal concerns that individuals have to deal with. Family issues, most of those have dealt with health issues, where they became a primary caregiver for perhaps an older adult that now required much more time and attention than they could previously give. So the scheduled time that they had for school no longer can be the priority because there's a loved one to take care of. So recognizing that those things do occur as well. Personal health issues. Varied things have come up. Some incredibly life-threatening situations that we've heard of individuals who have had to be withdrawn. Heartbreaks for all of those. Have no control to try to help support through that, but recognizing that that is an issue in that space. And then financial issues is number 5 on that list. So feeling like they could, but really couldn't balance in that space. So recognize, most of these things, we can't necessarily make a major shift. Things happen, unexpected. Many of the individuals who have dropped or withdrawn have been able to come back once situations have resolved and continue their journey. We celebrate that when that's able to occur. But the number one thing on there, which I think is the biggest tragedy, is simply inattention. It was not scheduled. And so we had to withdraw individuals. Please don't be that individual. Please find the time, schedule it in, make it happen. All right. Again, we've spent a lot of time talking about you. It's only fair that we spend a minute talking about us so that you know who you are jumping into this experience and this journey with. It's not fair that we put all the pressure on you. You should know a little bit about who we are. The mission of Nightingale College is to facilitate higher learning along the professional nursing continuum focused on cognitive practice and everyday ethical comportment apprenticeships, that's an academic term, while serving diverse communities to close educational equity gaps. To break that down, we use a little abbreviation in that you'll hear confident, competent, and compassionate nurses, right? Those are the 3 apprenticeships we're talking about there. Confident, competent, and compassionate. It encompasses those 3 apprenticeships. So if you hear that phrase, that's what we're talking about. We're trying to make sure that you're in a space where those apprenticeships, which again goes from the literature, are met, and that we're helping you to become that nurse that is confident, competent, and compassionate within your practice. Again, it's also while serving diverse communities to close educational equity gaps. I'll ask the question, I don't know how easy it'll be online with some of the chat there, but does anything particularly stand out to you in this statement about who we project ourselves to be? Anything in the chat? Okay. I know there's a slight delay in the broadcasting, which is always designed, so I don't know how long it takes before it starts to populate. I'm going to keep...
I've got it. Some
Please.
say serving diverse communities, diversity, we're getting a lot of diversity. Ethical and diversity,
Yeah.
let's see.
One thing I will say about serving diverse communities as well is that part of the model and the mold of what we were trying to create in Nightingale College as we think about the model, it's a remote and distance learning experience. That's by design. And it's by design partly to overcome equity gaps and to help serve diverse communities. And those diverse communities, we're not just talking about gender or race or economics, we're also talking socioeconomics and rural environments, rural to urban. Most nursing schools are positioned in major metropolitan centers. That means if you're in rural Montana or out in the outskirts of Fairbanks, Alaska, and you want to go to nursing school, you have to drop everything, go to a major metropolitan city, take your schooling, likely get a job in a hospital in that city, and you never return back to your environment. Now, I was having a conversation earlier. One of the biggest drivers of stability inside of rural America is healthcare. If we can get people trained in healthcare and they stay in their communities, other economic activity follows. If a community loses its healthcare, those businesses, those individuals leave. They move to be closer to healthcare. So we also have to think about if we're going to stabilize rural America in ways that are meaningful to rural America, again, we need to make sure that the individuals who seek nursing education or seek to work in healthcare are able to get that where they live so that they can stay where they live. We want to help to make sure that individuals who want to continue that life and that lifestyle in those spaces can do so. So part of the model is designed so that you can do this from home. Yes, you may have to travel a couple times a year to get to those DFCs because we may not have partners right in your community, but the hope and the intent is that we're able to build those relationships and partnerships so that you can stay where you want to stay, wherever that is for you and your family. So thinking about that, it's also trying to create a diversity model that allows for socioeconomic backgrounds to get into nursing education. Nursing education is not cheap. It's just not. We do everything we can to try to reduce those costs, to limit those costs, to give back to the learners. Part of what the graduation fund is also to provide money back into the account so that when you're done with the program, you have money to start your new career and to transition from learner into practice. Those are all designed economic triggers to try to help support the model, to help make sure that there are those transition moments and that the school is affordable as much as we can try to make it. But thank you for that. I'm glad that that is seen, and I hope that that is meaningful to individuals who come to the institution. The purpose statement here is much loftier, and it is better world through better humanity and better health. We believe we can make a better world. That's partly what we were designed to try to provide, is a better world. And we think that helping people to have better health allows them to then determine what is the better version of themselves, and to have the ability and the strength and the capability then to elect to become the better version of themselves. And when any person becomes a better version of themselves, it improves their family, their community, and ultimately the world. So it kind of goes circular here. But we believe if we're going to make a better world, we do it by helping to provide the conditions of better health that allow people to become better humans. Those better humans help provide for the health of those communities. The health of that community helps provide for the improvement of the entire world. So as we think about what we are trying to do here as an institution, we would like for you to become the best version of yourself. Again, you get to determine what that looks like, what that means for you. We do not determine that for you, but we want everyone to think about improvement. How can you be better? While you're here in school, of course, you're improving your intellectual capacity, your employment opportunities, your economic potential. Those are all great ways of improvement. There's more ways that you can continue to improve, and we want to help you to do that. Hopefully the model that we've set up helps to provide space for all those things to exist together. All right, there are some questions we could ask in there. We're going to keep rolling. The pathway that we do this is what we hold ourselves as a community to internally. So this is the administration, the faculty, the support models, etc. And you coming in as learners, we invite you into the same space, into our pathway. Learners, faculty, and staff are expected to align with the college's Evolvitude statement. It's what we call it. It's an attitude of evolvement, which is an attitude of change and development. I practice self-governance through growth mindset, responsibility, and transparency. So these things interact with one another. Without responsible transparency, you can get into some really bad situations. If you don't have a growth mindset, being fully transparent as well can be problematic. If you have no responsibility but have a growth mindset, there's gaps there. In any event, they interact with one another, and the concept here is that I practice self-governance. And self-governance also impacts the way that others interact with me. I should always be improving through growth mindset. I should take responsibility for the actions that I elect to project into the world. And with that, I should be transparent as far as it's responsible in helping to make sure that people understand where we are and what we're trying to pursue together. So, as an institution, you call in an angry state, recognize that we're also in this same space. We will take responsibility for the components that are ours to own. We'll be transparent about where those gaps are. We'll also focus on growth mindset. Maybe we were at fault, maybe we were not. We're humans doing human things. We may make mistakes, but we will try to own up to that as much as possible and grow from it. Feedback helps us grow. We encourage your feedback to help us grow. But please do so also with responsibility and transparency around your pieces of those interactions, our pieces of those interactions, and we can continue to grow together. All right. Your journey, we've talked about this several times. I reiterated it a lot. There's a reason behind it. Heed the call or not. This is the moment. You've heard it. You're here. I welcome you. I'm excited to have you here. Nightingale's a fabulous place for you to learn your education. I'm excited to help provide an environment which hopefully is conducive to your growth and learning. Again, we're a non-traditional institution, but hopefully that's by design to help support and blend, scheduled in, to your life and lifestyle. But you have until next Friday at just before noon to let us know whether this is your time, this is the moment, when that Hogwarts letter is going to be cracked open, when you're going to hop on the plane and fly out, or whether you're going to follow Gandalf into the woods. This is your time to let us know. If now is not that time, no blame, no shame, but you need to let us know by next Friday at noon. If you're all in, you're all in. You don't need to do anything. We'll just continue to move forward with the classes that you have, with the work that you have, and we will continue to try to provide all the support we can to help you to be successful in this journey. I would encourage you again to figure out your why, to really consider what's going to carry you through. What is that end state that you're hoping for? If you are willing, please do send it to your LSS strategist, who will be there as a support mechanism to help you through this journey, and in times where it gets tough, may help to remind you, with your permission, of what that why is. Not as a browbeat, again, it's an encouragement, it's a support, it's a way of trying to help to engage, and to also provide supports where they may be needed in helping us to get to that space. If you're willing, please do. I would very strongly encourage you to share your why with your LSS strategist so that we can be a support and mentor to you. I would also encourage you to take inventory of the 8 dimensions of wellness. Where are you right now? We all have areas of improvement. I know I have some spaces that are feeling stretched that I need to try to pull back into line. It's a great time of year to consider that. Where are those places that I need to create a little bit more boundary, a little bit more space to pull myself back into full wellness and balance? And I encourage you to do the same. I would also encourage you to commit to the mission, the purpose, and the pathway, which is the Evolvitude statement that we went over. As you're joining this community, we are committing to those things. We hope that you'll join us in that same commitment, and we can build this community that will help support everyone going forward. With that, this is the time to cross the threshold. Potential is unlimited. We don't know who or what you can be. I'm actually thrilled at this point that we are really spending some time investing in our alumni population too, in building a community of alumni, and to find out where graduates of Nightingale College have ended up, what they're doing now, how they're growing. We have several that are entrepreneurs and own their own clinics and own their own practices. We have several that are in leadership at state and hospital levels. We have some that are floor leaders and love the bedside space, and they're doing amazing things for their clients and patients. Some have become chief nursing officers at major institutions. The potential that you have is unlimited, and I'm thrilled to see everything from loving the bedside and staying there and not seeking other leadership opportunities to trying to get to the highest level of influence they can and getting into political or administrative capacities within their facilities or communities. I love to see when people feel that they are reaching their potential through the education that they've received. And I want to see that for all of you. The potential is unlimited now. We don't know how far you can go, but hopefully you see the opportunity and you're thinking about what can 10 years, 15 years be for you. All right, that takes us through the bulk of the things that are heavy, right? I talk about a lot of heavy things to start out. It's mainly because, again, I want to make sure that we have some good disclosure, we have some good understanding, and we're thinking about these things that can knock us off the path. It's always a challenge when we start a new journey to know all that's going to come at us, but we need to be thinking about the balance that will help us to be successful. This portion, I just want to give you a feel for, again, we've talked a lot about you. We want to talk a little bit more about us. How we've structured the curriculum, how we've got a couple of words of advice from our director of nursing, and a couple of things I just want you to be aware of about how the model is structured, again, as we're going through so that you can understand who we are as an institution a little better. We work off of a model that's called concept-based curriculum. So this comes from the work of Giddens. It's a nursing thought leader in this space. And we work off of nursing concepts that are threaded throughout the curriculum. So there are different forms of models that exist on how to teach medical education in a couple of different ways. One of them is the case-based model, which you go through all the nuances of a single case, and if you get enough of those cases, they consider you prepared to address an individual in a space, right? We've given you so many exposures to so many different concepts, now you're ready to run. There are other environments where they teach you perfusion, and now we're going to teach you every possible thing about perfusion in one big go, and then we won't talk about it again. You know perfusion, so we're going to move on. Following a couple of other different kinds of educational models, the concept-based curriculum model takes that big idea of perfusion and breaks it down into a bunch of the different details and how it exists across different kinds of constructs, and then it provides that throughout the curriculum. So your concepts will be threaded multiple times as you're going through the curriculum, multiple classes all the way through to a level of competency. But again, it's a concept-based curriculum that takes that big idea and breaks it down into chunks all along the way with a competency-based assessment model at the end. So recognize that it may not look like all the other schools. It doesn't follow the Harvard case-based model that you may have heard of or other structures like that, but it is designed here to provide you everything that's involved in all of those in a way that is more digestible over time, okay? So the learning delivery model allows for access in any setting. So again, if we're talking about perfusion, well, perfusion exists in long-term care settings. It occurs in acute care settings. It occurs in nurseries. Perfusion is a health concept that it goes into all those. So we don't necessarily teach perfusion and then put you in dialysis, right? It's not a one-to-one relationship because these concepts are threaded throughout. So is the ability to apply them across multiple healthcare settings. So there are a couple different things that we have in helping you to build skills and models. One's the remote skills acquisition model. It's what we call it. In the classes that have nursing components and where you'll be going into experiential learning, direct focused care, those are within clinical environments, the direct focused care setting. You will also be receiving kits. These kits are remote skills kits. They come with all the different things you need to practice, to train with, and then to demonstrate skills back. Those will be recorded and sent back for feedback and conversation around how you're doing within your home environment within that space. So it includes concepts like sterile field and suturing and catheters and all those other wonderful things that you can do in a remote setting with mannequins and models that you'll have in your home setting that, again, we verify. When you then go to your experiential learning, there's a skills checkoff to make sure that you are skilled, competent, confident in being able to perform that in a clinical environment, and then you're allowed to work within that clinical space with those skills that you have been able to demonstrate. So it gives you a chance to do a lot more at home and to build that confidence. It also includes up to 50% of your experiential learning time is in simulation, virtual simulation space. So you'll all be receiving the VR headsets. They come in your kit. So again, when it's needed for the course and the curriculum, it'll come in your kit. You don't have to do anything special for that. It simply comes as part of the package. But when it arrives in that space, you have a chance to experience it as much as you want. You can make mistakes. In fact, it's even a good idea on occasion to try to make a mistake knowingly to see what happens and then fix it. Do it correctly and get confident in that. But it gives you an opportunity to be in a safe space where there is low risk to human life. But it gives you that time to get confident, to do it as many times as you need, to do so privately and safely in spaces that are not visible. So you can really have that time to get comfortable within a clinical space. We have done some research in that space, and I've gone to a couple different conferences and things in that. With the VR headsets, you're able to get the concepts faster, the transference of those concepts and skills, faster in amount of time and with fewer attempts at the skill set than if you were to do it even in a 2D computer-based setting. So same simulation, same kind of environment, but being in the 3D environment helps with the transference of that knowledge and skill, faster rate with fewer attempts. So I would encourage, I know that sometimes it can be a little disorienting. When you get them, play games, get accustomed to it. There are some tips and tricks to make it more accommodating. It will save you time and effort later getting comfortable in the headset, in that transference of skill. So do make the effort. It is worth your while. The research backs it up. Just a note. All right. Tons of writing on here. You don't actually have to read all of this. It's just up there. Wanted to be clear, when we talk about experiential learning, it's broken into 4 major subheadings. And these are all terminologies that you will hear during your time here. So wanted to make you aware of them. The first one is VCBC. We just call it VCBC. It's your virtual case-based client. That's what the acronym stands for. And those are authentic clinical experiences that happen inside of the virtual environment. So your VRs or your simulations that are 2D on your computer. So think of those as, this is a virtual clinical environment. It's a virtual case-based client. okay? We just abbreviate it, and you'll often hear people just say VCBC. We're talking about the simulation space. The second one is DFC. We'll just call it a DFC. I've been calling it the whole time experiential learning, direct focused care. I do that on purpose because it is experiential learning, direct focused care. Most people you may hear just refer to it as a DFC, an abbreviation in that, and it still means the same thing. It's direct focused care. So this is in a client-facing setting, a clinical environment, where you're face-to-face with actual clients in that space, okay? But the whole term for it is experiential learning, direct focused care. But you may just hear DFC. So recognize that that's the distinction we're talking about. VCBC is a virtual space where you're dealing with clients in a simulated environment. Your DFC is the real world, tactile, physical space. Your AFE is applied field experience. Applied field experience is taking your nurse reasoning, logic, and understanding of how principles of nursing work into settings that may not be client-facing, meaning there are environments, nursing happens everywhere, right? These concepts can be applied much more globally than just in a client-facing environment. So this gives you an opportunity to apply that in your community or in other settings that you may not traditionally think of nursing skills being applied. There's more to come on that. Don't worry about it. It's not scary, I promise. But it helps to expand the construct of what your nursing skills that you're gaining here can do for you in a broader context. So AFE is your applied field experience. We also have the IP, which is the integrated practicum. At the end of your program, after you've gone through all this concept-based skill development and you've done your remote skills acquisitions and you're right at the end of the program, this is the time where you are in a client-facing environment for an extended period of time under supervision, right? Traditional for all these kinds of programs, but it gives you that time to have dedicated, focused experience in an environment to help build that confidence and competence within that clinical space. Not just the didactic understanding, but a true physical embodiment of that in a clinical facing. So those are the 4 things. They're all experiential learning. So if you hear someone say experiential learning, get clarity. There's a lot of experiential learning. Is it a VCBC? Is it a DFC? Is it an AFE? Or is it an IP? Okay? But those are all under the umbrella of what we call experiential learning, and those are all experiences that help to build your clinical expertise, practice, okay? All right, within your DFC rotations, see what I did there? Yep, you're gonna hear it, is there are lots of different components that go into that. One of them is getting those placements arranged. We have an entire department that does academic operations, and they focus on getting the partners, getting the facilities, getting the rotational space, making sure that you're credentialed so that you can go into those facilities appropriately, that you have your proper orientation and training, and that we have the proper faculty in those environments to help support the learner population that's going on that rotation, okay? They do a lot. There's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes to make those DFC experiences meaningful. The first one in there is the credentialing space. When you start getting emails about credentialing, this is state and federal law. We don't have a whole lot of wiggle room because we are invited guests into these facilities. So we maintain one of the highest standards of the credentialing requirements across facilities so that you can go where we can fit you, right? Like we mentioned, we have 9,000 learners across the country. You saw where our physical facilities are located across the country. Right now, the current partners that are doing those rotational spaces, we have lots of different requirements for different facilities in those spaces, and we need to make sure we can put you where it makes the most sense, as close as we can to where you live, or as reasonable as we can get you for those who we know have to travel outside of state into a neighboring state, so that you are not paying crazy amounts of money all the time in your travel expenses in making sure that you can do these DFCs. So the credentialing requirements in there, you may have a facility next to home that doesn't require a TB test. Well, unfortunately, because we work with so many different facilities, we require the TB test. It's a kind of a non-negotiable operationally for us to be able to maintain the placement model that we have to get everybody into those rotations so that you don't have a slowdown in your ability to progress in your schedule. So Please be aware this is not a targeted thing. There is no, we're maintaining the highest standard across facilities so that we can make sure that we have the best possibility of getting you in the most optimal placements in that semester. All right? But your credentialing requirements, every state has different requirements. Again, we try to follow the cleanest line through all those different states. Individual facilities may have something that goes a little bit beyond that. It's usually very, very little, but we inform and we let you choose whether you're willing to meet that credentialing requirements for facilities in that space. Either way, the credentialing benchmark is consistent across the entire organization. So that is the benchmark we require everyone to hit. Please be responsive to those, because if we do not have your credentialing in place before your first DFC, we cannot place you. We can't. And at that point, because there are so many prereqs and co-reqs within the model, you might be paused, stalled, or unable to continue in your progress within the program because we don't have credentialing done. I'm not trying to scare you. You're still in a good place. Everyone who's starting today is okay. Just want to be very clear about the credentialing is important. Please take it seriously and please try to get it done in a timely manner so that we can make sure that you don't have a delay, because we have what we need to be able to put you into that space. All right. Within that same space, there are some things. California is called out in that space, for instance, because we do have to travel California. So even if California may not require a particular test, because you are traveling and we know you are traveling, we do the higher test across the states to make sure that we could send you to where we can, as close as we can, to any of those neighboring states that have clinical rotation spaces. Again, this is an operational thing with 9,000 people across the country. It's incredibly challenging to have one person without something that we have to try to place and plug in somewhere, so we just maintain a clean line across the board, okay? All right. Individual facilities may have individual trainings that you have to go into before you can go into those clinical sites. It's very, very common for them to do that. It almost always happens either remotely or it'll be the first day of your rotational space. All the instructions will be sent to you in advance. Don't worry about that. Just an awareness factor that we are invited guests in these facilities, and so we also have to abide by the regulatory requirements that they have for us to be in their space. So some of them may have individual requirements that they require for training or orientation, just so that they can maintain their credentialing. All right. There is also a schedule variation form. So if you have a life event that you know is happening, there's a wedding, there's a baby being born, something like that, that you know when that is occurring, you have a knee surgery that's happening and you're going to have a recovery timeline of a couple of weeks, that you know you will not be able to do a DFC. Before the semester begins, there is a form called the schedule variance form that you can fill out to inform us of major life events like that that are very clear and known, so that we can try to schedule as much as humanly possible around those events and not create delays in your progress, okay? It's not necessarily for fully avoidable, you know, I'm gonna take a vacation and I'd love to go to Paris. So I'd like to not be scheduled this week. It's for bigger events like surgeries, marriages, babies, things like that, okay? If you have questions on that, you can reach out to the schedule variance folks. When it becomes time for you to start thinking about that, your first thing will be credentialing. But if you have questions about what would qualify, there are instructions on the form itself around what qualifies and what you would need to do to fill that out. But just letting you know that it exists, so that if you know something is coming up, you can let us know in advance, and that gives us a better opportunity to make sure there's no delays in getting you scheduled and continuing your progress. So, same kind of thing in here. We've talked about a couple of these different things. What happens if I'm studying maternity but my placement is in a long-term care setting? What do I do? It's a different skill. Well, it's not a different concept, right? The concepts that exist within a maternity setting and a long-term care, principles of perfusion, principles of cardiac health, et cetera, those concepts can be applied in multiple different settings. So what I would say is if you have concerns around that, talk to your faculty. Our faculty in the DFC space are phenomenal about helping to apply and attach concepts that you're learning in one space and making sure that you're understanding how that concept applies in all of the different kinds of DFC settings that you may find yourself, okay? So again, it's concept-based curriculum. The concepts do apply across the multiple spaces. Given the complexity of 9,000 people and across all those facilities, it ends up being over 58,000 different instances of clinical rotations every single semester. You might have that happen, but the concepts, because we've designed it the way that it is, your faculty can help to support you in making sure that there are no connections lost in transferring those concept skills to different clinical settings, okay? What happens if I miss a rotation? Eek, that's a problem. Again, because of the complexity of getting all these scheduled, there may be an opportunity to get you in that same semester if somebody else has a problem and we can plug you into another space where somebody may have fallen out. But at a certain point, it becomes administratively impossible to continue to reschedule with that many people in different clinical sites with orientations and other things that may have to happen, that after your third rotation, it's considered a fail. If you have failed to meet the scheduled opportunity 3 times, we just can't fit you in that semester at this point. It's too hard for us to continue to keep plug and playing and moving. It's how I had it explained to me once is it's like a 38-sided Rubik's Cube that fights back. Trying to get all the complexity across states and regulations and credentialing and people, and it's very complex. So we do have a cutoff for how many you can miss in a given semester. We know that life is challenging and it comes in. Inform us in advance. If we have advance notice of things that are happening, we can try to adjust. Granted, some things are emergencies. We try to also adjust for some of those, but administratively, it just becomes too hard to adjust to everything. So keep us informed. Let us know as much in advance as you can. Again, there are ways that we can still make up and keep things rolling, but that will happen as we're going along. Where can I find the expectations of when I attend my DFC? It's in your course. It'll be coming out to you, and for each of the individual clinical environments that you will be potentially assigned, the DFC spaces, they may have individual requirements or individual expectations for going into those individual spaces. So those will be part of your packets that you will be getting about going to those different DFC sites. So do not worry, it will all be inclusive. But we know that that's a question that we get quite a bit, is I want to make sure that I'm ready to go. Thank you for being prepared. You will be getting it in your packet. So do not worry at this point. All right, a couple of other things. Of course, for those who are going for the RN degree, there is the credentialing, of course, the NCLEX RN that you must pass at the end in order to be a licensed nurse in the space. It really is focused on your didactic thinking and your academic application of knowledge. So it's looking at what you know, right? It's a minimal safeguard to safety in working into those spaces because it's testing your nurse reasoning capabilities. Within that space, we have a series of exams right now that are called the HESI exams. Don't worry about the acronym, it's long and convoluted, but we just abbreviate it as HESI. The exams themselves are predictor exams. So in individual courses that you're in, they are designed to give you an awareness of how likely you are to pass the NCLEX based on that knowledge and skill set. We use that internally as a way of trying to gauge how well you're performing in that space and how well you're acquiring the didactic knowledge you need to be successful towards the NCLEX in that space. So we have remediations, we have other skill sets that we provide. The gauge readiness that they have identified on their marker, it goes up to 1400, is 900 is their benchmark. If you need to get to the 900. Ours is set slightly lower because we have found with our populations that sometimes with a little bit of remediation, we can continue your progress and not harm your ability to still pass the NCLEX. So we have a couple of different benchmarks below that, one at 850 and one at 800 on that exam to help support remediation and the acquisition of that knowledge that will help you to be successful. So recognize 900 is their benchmark, ours is set at 800 for continuing to progress in that same space, okay? There's more to come on that. There will be a lot more explanation, but if you hear HESI exam, it's one of those things that you hear about in the chats that strikes fear in the hearts of individuals. It's a predictor exam. It's intended to provide us a reasonable expectation and understanding of where you currently sit in your nurse reasoning skills. So it's important to take them seriously. It's also important to consider and understand what they are. They are there to help understand how close you are to being able to pass that exam to become a licensed nurse. All right. And clinical practice, which is part of the DFC space that we've talked quite a bit about. Experiential learning activities are all designed to provide nurse reasoning skills and clinical practice. It's getting into that confident and competent practice. All right, a couple more things that are coming into that ethical comportment piece. This is coming from your director of nursing. Wanted to go through a couple of these pieces. In the professional comportment aspect of this, we are guests in these facilities. I've mentioned that before, which means that we align both to our individual standard as a college, but also the standards of the facility. Because when we're in that environment, we are both representing us and them. So we have to align to that standard as well. But we are guests. Nightingale College does not own or operate any healthcare facilities, and we don't have any labs or buildings. We have a rented floor for operation support in Salt Lake City. That's it. Everything else is through the clients and the stakeholders that we partner with. But that also means that we have an obligation, both as the faculty and learners, to be in a place that we understand that it is a privilege to be invited into those spaces, and we need to act accordingly. It is a contract between us and them. That means our appearance, our attitude, and our language all need to be at the highest standards of professionalism. We can go through a lot more detail on that. I don't feel that we need to browbeat, but just recognize, again, we are guests. We are there to represent both of us. One thing that I think is often overlooked is every engagement is a job interview. You would be amazed at how small the nursing community is. It is incredibly tight-knit and incredibly well-connected. And I am amazed by it every time I go to conference or other spaces. I am not a healthcare professional. I will be blunt about that. I am not a nurse. I'm an educator. I've worked in hospital settings. I did hospital education for quite a long time. But I am not a care provider. But even still, because I've worked in hospital settings and because I've worked in nursing education for years, I go into those settings and people know who I am. They know who you are as care providers. And when I worked in the hospital safety committee, I was on one of those for the system I worked at, we would have individuals who were coming from other systems that were debating whether we could hire them into our system. They would be talked about in hospital safety committee, and they'd know, I've heard about them from the director of nursing of that other facility 4 states over. We don't want them. They're dangerous. It's like, oh, okay. 4 states over in an entirely different system, but somehow you're known because the directors of nursing will talk. So even if you're thinking, these don't matter, I'm just a learner, I'm going into these facilities, we're in, we're out, we're done, I'm never gonna see these people again, you might want to reconsider that. Nursing community is very tight-knit and they do talk. So consider every time you are in a facility, every time you are acting in that capacity, either as a learner or as a licensed individual, you're in a job interview. It can impact future opportunities. It can impact your potential. So consider each of those. Again, you're guests in those facilities. You're there to represent us as an institution, as your educating host. You're there representing the facility that is hosting the clients that are coming in, and you're representing yourself for future engagements. So please consider, those are interviews. Whether you recognize them as such, it can impact your future. Ethical behavior in there, integrity is the profession. Nursing has been listed almost uniformly for the last 50 years as the most trusted profession. There's a reason behind that. You are helping to take care of people at their most vulnerable. When they bring loved ones into those facilities, they trust, and they have to exude that trust into that facility, that you have knowledge and skill that they do not to take care of their loved ones. They are imbuing you with that. Integrity is the profession. If you are not acting in an integrity fashion, you're not acting up to the best of nursing. So we hold that very strong in our thinking, is that we would like to help provide an environment where you can act in your most ethical space. And we want to make sure that you're also thinking about how you can present yourself in that way. Systems and processes matter, of course. Your response to challenge is also key. And where do you go for support or understanding, and whose values do you value? That's an interesting one in a clinical environment. You'll have a lot of opportunity to explore that. But whose values do you value is also important. You're there to take care of them at their most vulnerable. They're coming with perhaps even complex morbidities or complex issues that require significant care. But there's also a human there that has moral, ethical, even religious constructs that they adhere to that also need to be valued in the attempt to provide the medical care. So how do you balance those? You'll have a lot of opportunity to get into that exploration a little bit more. But that takes us through all the major big stuff. If you haven't fallen asleep yet, because my voice drones on in a very nice baritone tone, then I'd like to ask if there are any questions that you have either about your journey, about Nightingale and supports, or about anything that we've discussed at this point that I can help to respond since I am present.
So far,
Yes.
let's see, we just have a lot of people connecting and saying where they're at. They're starting study groups, which is great.
Which is amazing, and I hope you do, because it will help you through the journey. There's almost nothing better than to have connections and support and to not feel like you're isolated, because you are over 9,000 people nationwide. So there are lots of you that can support one another. Do not feel isolated. Please.
Is there any way we can travel with a classmate to a DFC?
So that gets complicated, and there are a couple of reasons. Yes and no. If you can arrange those independently once those assignments have been given out, yes. Nightingale College, because of the liability that's associated with you making housing arrangements that are facilitated through the college, if we facilitate that engagement, we have shared liability if anything happens in those housing and settings while you're traveling in DFC. So we do not create the environment that allows for that immediate connection. There are forums that exist, there are groups that exist, there are lots of different ways that learners have chosen to connect. That's great. I hope you do, so that you can save some money in ways that are safe and meaningful for you. But because of the liability, Nightingale College does not have a forum or a space where we've created specifically for the learners to make those housing arrangements. I hope that does not sound callous, or there's a liability concern that we have when we start talking about housing and about where individuals stay.
All right, so they want to know if there's still a pilot program, and if there is, how can they get a form to fill out?
Pilot program for what?
Pilot program.
We do lots of pilot programs, so I'm not sure which one they're referring to. But again, we're always trying to figure out ways that we can do what we do better. And instead of just springing our great ideas on the entire population all at once, because of course if you do that with 9,000 people, it becomes chaos and things fall apart. We do smaller pilot programs where we'll invite certain populations to engage in something that we think will be an improvement on the model. As those situations do emerge, and we figure out something that we think will be an innovation or a benefit to the learners, we will reach out to populations that we think are a best fit for that pilot, and to see if you're interested. If you don't want to, and you want to keep status quo, by all means, that's an option. But those will be opportunities as they emerge that we will be reaching out to the populations that would be most impacted by that, to see if you would be interested in joining us in that. So right now there's not a sign up for any pilot programs that I'm aware of at the present time. If those do become available, again, they'll be sent out to populations in a targeted area through email.
All right, how soon do you find out where you are being sent for DFC?
Good question. Making travel arrangements can be challenging, particularly if you're in an environment like California where you know you will travel. The requirement right now that we have as kind of a commitment to you is that it will be no less than a month in advance so that we can make arrangements. Again, the complexity of trying to get those arranged sometimes takes a little bit of time, but you should know at least a month in advance so that you can make arrangements and it doesn't become too burdensome.
And then how long will the clinicals be?
Right now they're designed so that you have 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on. So it ends up being 1 week, 1 week of time that you'd be offline for the travel if you're required to travel. If you are in an environment where we have clinical rotation that's close to your home, sometimes we're able to get those arranged so that it is like maybe 1 day out of a week for a month. So it ends up being that it'll be staggered across a period of time where you can do those clinical experiences close to home. It depends, again, on the clinical facilities, how close you are to those spaces, and then how we can arrange with those who are coming from out of town and those who are within town to balance out those spaces. With California learners, again, I'll also mention there are a lot of facilities that don't love to take people from out of state because they don't feel like they're going to come back or work for them. And they always view clinical rotational spaces as opportunities to network and to try to encourage people to stay in those facilities. So when we're looking at that, most of the facilities we do a blended model where we will have those who are local learners or from that environment who will fill out part of that, and then we will bring in outside distance learners to fill out the remainder of that rotation. So a lot of times if you are even doing rotations close to home, if you're in a space where that's available, and you may have half of them be from your local community and half of them be from California or from some other state where they currently have to travel in to fill out that clinical rotation. There are a couple of benefits to that. You're able to network with people from out of your environment immediately. We've had a lot of positive commentaries from a lot of our upperclassmen in California who say that they love being able to see how other parts of the country currently operate as well. It gives them a broader perspective of nursing more generally in different kinds of facilities in different regions, and that's been very valuable to their practice. So there are a lot of opportunities that can come with this blended model, but recognize that it is most likely going to be a little bit of a blend to fill out those rotation spaces.
All right, what does a graduation and the pinning program look like? Is there an in-person opportunity where everyone gathers?
Yes. So during COVID that was shut down and we did all remote commencements. We've now done a blended environment where we do as close to your commencement date as possible. We'll have a remote broadcast. That remote broadcast is when we will do your awards and honors, and we have a pinning ceremony that's attached to that. The opportunity of that being a broadcast event is so that you can do that close to home, celebrate with friends and family, get as many people as you want together, and to have that larger party kind of a feel. But we also have once a year, we come together and we will do a walking celebration where if you would like to have that experience to walk across the stage, there's a pinning ceremony and a lighting of the lamp, those ceremonial aspects that are also done at that time so that you can also have that in person if you wish to have that experience within that space. I know it's deeply meaningful for a lot of people. I'm at that walking event in person doing the whole thing. I love it every year. But we do it in two different ways. Because we're nationwide and it's very challenging to get people who may come from some of these underserved financial environments to get their entire family and friend group up to the walking celebration, we have the broadcast event. That puts it as close to your graduation as possible while allowing you to have a party where you can broadcast that with your friends and family and celebrate and do all of that all together. But we also have the opportunity, if you can afford and if you wish to have that experience, where you come together. And that happens in August every year, where you can come in with your friends and family and have the walking experience celebration at that time. So we have both, and the purpose behind that again is to make sure that it is as accessible an opportunity to celebrate with your family and friends as humanly possible.
All right, they want to know if you have any information on badges and scrubs.
That information will be sent out to you the semester before it is required to you. It'll be coming through email. So if you are about to start that, you'll be receiving that during the add drop period here, which is again the first 2 weeks of the semester if you are starting directly into clinical experiences. So watch your emails because it'll be coming in that. If you're not immediately starting in a nursing course where it's required, do not worry, it won't be coming immediately because it is not yet required for you to have that information. So it'll come again the first semester it's required during that add drop period. If you haven't received it yet, fear not, you're probably in the majority. It would be
All
an
right, and they
evolution.
also want to know from the learner side, how can we help with getting California approved for clinicals?
Great question. So we have a couple of initiatives that have been going on there. There are a couple of legislative actions. We had last year, it went all the way through the committees. It was approved until it got to the governor's desk, and the governor decided that budgetary reasons, he was striking down all new legislation. So no legislation that had any budgetary requirement actually went through. So it got all the way to the governor's desk, and then it got struck down. Right now we have another initiative that's going on that as we get closer in where it would have public action or public comment or the ability of people to share stories that would potentially help or support impact legislators. That information will be coming to the learners through email to create that opportunity. We'll also send it out in some targeted communications to invite, if you are willing and able and would like to join, how you can contribute and support legislative change in your individual states. So recognize, we do this on occasion where we'll just send out a notice and say, can you, will you, are you interested in participating? If you would like to participate, we encourage you to do so. But we will keep you apprised as those opportunities emerge. Again, this falls into legislative cycles, it falls into political agendas. We have to follow a couple of different, we watch it very closely and we're very highly engaged. So we will keep you posted as those opportunities emerge.
All right, what is the difference between Canvas and CourseKey?
Good question. Canvas is where all of your course materials are posted. CourseKey is a third-party service that helps us to monitor engagement. So it helps us to monitor for the purposes of that 12-day attendance taking. So CourseKey does not provide you any materials. It doesn't provide you any of the instruction. It merely is monitoring the work that's happening inside of Canvas and informing us of where the engagement's happening and when the engagement is happening, which helps us in determining your engagement for the 12-day attendance, okay? So again, CourseKey is a support mechanism for us. It does not provide the educational experience to you, whereas Canvas is the platform by which we deliver curriculum and instruction.
All right.
Does that make sense? Is that confusing? It's just a third-party tool that we use that helps to monitor for our purposes and helping us to determine. Yeah.
Do we need to log into CourseKey every 12 days, or will it pick up on our logins on Canvas?
It should pick up from your Canvas login, because that's what it's intended to do. Once you've got it downloaded and engaged in the system, it's running in the background. Okay. Yeah, you shouldn't have to do anything special at that place. You just, if you've downloaded it and you've logged in, it should just run in the background. Just jump into your Canvas, do your work, don't even worry about it. Yeah.
All right, since we can't do clinicals in California, can they still take the NCLEX in California?
Clarifier. DFC experiential learning.
Yes.
The reason the language is specific there is because of legislative agendas and the way that people currently talk about it. So we are very specific about the language that we use. Sorry it sounds confusing, and sorry it's not as traditional as some other institutions. It's nationwide political agenda concern that we have to manage as an institution. In your experiential learning direct focused care, your DFC, although you are doing your clinical experiences, those experiential learning direct focused care outside of the state, they are monitored, regulated, and approved by the state of California when you go back to take your licensure exam. So we have had over 1,000 people in California that have already been licensed following this model. You should not have a problem in the state of California in getting licensed, even though your experiences of doing that experiential learning is outside of the state boundaries. Yes, you can still sit for the NCLEX. Yes, you can still be licensed in the state. California does have specific requirements around other things that are in your learner plan. They require microbiology and nutrition as part of your standard path. Not all states require that. So you'll have to make sure that it is one of the courses that you take while you're in school to be eligible to sit in the state of California, but that should have already been disclosed and it should already be in your program plan. So you should not have to do anything additional to that. But recognize that if it's there, it's because it's a requirement of the state and it was not transferred in previously. Other states, including Idaho, which we're in now, do not require nutrition or microbiology as a requirement, but you do need to have a certain number of science credits. So we have some science electives, and those are some of the science electives available to you. So whether you take them or not or transfer in is up to you. So individual states have individual requirements, but those should already be in your program plan so that we can make sure you're in compliance to sit for your exams.
All right, so some learners are saying they haven't received their welcome kit and want to know who they're able to talk to if they haven't received it.
Don't worry about that yet. So welcome kits, some of them are able to go out in advance of the semester. Some of them come out in the first week or two of the semester. It depends on it's an operational thing, and I'm sorry about that. Sometimes it ends up taking a little bit more time depending on when people were individually cleared. Sometimes it ends up being because there's a financial clearance wait. They're waiting to make sure that the federal financial hurdle has been covered before it's sent out. Because if we can't get you closed on your federal financial aid, of course, you can't actually go to school because you can't cover the funding. So there may be a delay there in trying to follow, but it's all administrative. So the timing of that is not something that you need to worry about. As soon as everything has been cleared, signed off, the kits will be put in the mail and it'll come out. So that is typically, for those who have been cleared well in advance, it comes out before the semester. It'll come out usually the week before. For those who may have had a minor delay, it'll come out in the first week or two of the semester, but you should be getting it here shortly. So I would not worry about it yet.
Awesome, and then they're also asking around how many students are in each rotation at the hospitals?
That's bound to 8. So those facilities, some facilities require just a few less, so it may be anywhere between 6 and 8, but it is a small group that you're working with an individual faculty in those rotational spaces, which is also why we have to have so many partners and why it's challenging to get those arranged. If somebody is missing, it's a big miss in a small group like that. And arranging with facilities to try to get those rotation spaces, it puts additional burden. And if there's too many changes in an individual rotation, then we could lose that partner because it becomes administrative burden for them, right? It's a lot. The point is you're going to be working in a small group between 6 and 8 in those rotational spaces. Again, if you are concerned about your ability to make it to one of those, please inform us in advance and be very forthcoming about what is happening in your space so that we can try to make as many arrangements as possible.
All right, are we able to take courses outside of Nightingale while attending?
We have no ability to stop you from taking courses from other institutions at any time. That is up to your prerogative. Your program plan is already set for what we know are gaps within your curriculum to ensure that you're able to complete your degree with us. If you're completing courses from other institutions and wish to transfer them in, recognize the transfer credit policy is in place, and you'll need to meet that if there are going to be changes to your program plan. Otherwise, you will still be scheduled for that class in the next semester if you're planning on taking it elsewhere and transferring it in. It's a timing concern at that point to make sure that you have your transfer credits in advance of when you would take it with us. Nursing classes, however, are predominantly not accepted in transfer credit. So this would, I would assume, be referring to your general education credits or electives.
All right, and can you attend the same location twice?
Yes. Again, it depends on how we're scheduling, where you're at in the program, where the location is in relation to where you are. There are a lot of factors in that, but again, it's highly probable if you're in a residential space in which there are rotations available that you may end up in a similar same facility twice, or one in the same group within that.
Okay. For DFC locations, is there any way for learners to say where they prefer to go?
Well, again, with over 54,000 individual instances of scheduling for DFCs across that space, it becomes very challenging to go for preference. Again, every opportunity is tried to make within individual facilities and locations, but asking for preferential sites is typically not something we can accommodate just because of the operational burden that puts on our teams. And again, we're guests in those facilities, so we are bound to their parameters as well. It becomes very challenging to try to customize to every single individual within that space.
All right, who do we talk to about financial help, like scholarships?
You talk to your learner funding advisor. So if you have any question around your funding and scholarships, other opportunities, other ways of funding, there are opportunities on occasion that come up too that are also employer sponsoring. where if you have a facility that's in a particular area that is able to, we're working more and more with facilities to sponsor you through school for a service commitment after. So there may be opportunities to offset a lot of the costs through a service commitment that would happen afterwards. Some of that's already coming up, but again, your learner funding advisor would be able to help you with what is currently available and what is potentially available in your individual space. And if you are currently employed with an employer who might have an opportunity like that, they have information that you can also give to that employer to walk them through options that you could pitch, essentially, that they support you through school to continue commitment at a higher level credential afterwards. So your learner funding advisors would have all the information that you would need in that space, either to petition your current employer or to consider other employers or to look at other scholarships or other funding opportunities.
All right, if we travel internationally, can we log into Canvas?
Canvas is open. It is available. It's internet-based, so as long as you have good quality service and it will support the speeds that we need for things like your VR, it can be accessed in other spaces. There are some complications with how that may operate with user agreements in different countries. So there are countries that don't allow access to some of the materials in Canvas from other locations, and they do that based off of the unique identifier, your access point. That gets a little bit complicated. If you're planning on going out of the country and you know you're going to be out of the country, I would reach out to your faculty to find out if there's going to be any concern around your ability to complete your schooling while you're temporarily out of the country. Because we're a US-based institution, you cannot permanently residentially move to another country while completing this program at the present time. So you would still need to be eligible for US residency in a US program.
All right, so back to a little bit more of financial and payments. If they have any questions about payment arrangements and things like that, who do they reach out to?
Learner funding advisor as well. So they not only come up with funding options, they also come up with payment plans and how we can walk you through that. If you're having concerns with the payment structure, you may be getting reach out from the Bursar's office, which is talking about payment structures. But your learner funding advisors would be helping create those structures. The Bursar is merely the management arm of what we do that helps to balance those accounts. So they may just be informing. But your learner funding advisor would be who you reach out to for all those kinds of consulting.
All right, and for today's forum, how do they get credit, or how do they know that they got credit for being here?
You logged in if you're remote, and that means that we have tracked your attendance because you are logged in through that remote environment. For those who are in the room, they signed the document that tells us that they were present, so we also have them documented. But those are the two ways that we primarily track attendance, is because we have your information already in the system when you chose to engage. So you have credit.
All right, and then there is some questions about the VR headsets.
Yep.
So when would that come in and things like that?
The VR headsets will be coming to you in again, it's the first semester in which they are required for your course materials. So that is your first nursing course. So if you're in 206, I believe, in the BSN program, is usually the kit that it will come in for you. Right now it doesn't, if you're in a GE semester, it won't be coming in the GE semester. It'll be coming when you start nursing courses in which the simulations begin. So if you're not already in that course, fret not, it's on its way. It'll be part of the kit where it's required. Just like what we're talking about with badging, with your scrubs, with all those things, the information on all that will be coming the semester where it's required. It's usually not sent semester in advance or at the start of the program. So if you haven't received it, you're in a good place. It'll be coming when you need it at the time that you need it.
All right, and just our last question.
Yep.
Let me get that one up real quick. Okay, so is there going to be a replay of this video? A lot of people said that they had really good info and they just want to see if there will be a replay or any way to get this video.
It's a good question. Yes.
Yes,
It
we'll
is
put it on
available.
YouTube.
Yeah, I believe we post them all so that they're accessible to you so that you can see them again. It's also, to be perfectly blunt, it's part of the transparency that we do. We post them online to make them available so that you can also refer back. So I believe it's on YouTube, but I believe there's also a link that's traditionally sent out. It may not be a link, but I know we do post it on YouTube, so you can find it on there. You can look it up with the Nightingale College and then look up the semester. You could look at past semesters if you felt so inclined. I don't know why you would, but here we are. It's available to you, it's transparent, it's available, we post it. So, all right. I know there may be other questions. There are always going to be more questions. I would say if you have questions that are logistic like this, or you have questions about resources, or you're concerned about anything that's happening in that space, again, your learner support strategist is your go-to. They will help you navigate the questions. They will help navigate the concerns. There's information that will be coming to your emails as well. Please do watch your emails, track and monitor what's coming into that space. We send out quick start guides for semesters where there's transition and there's things that you're going to have to be prepared for. Watch for those. There's a lot of good information. There are weekly announcements that come to your email that are weekly check-ins that give you a little bit more information about what's happening broadly, things to be aware of, and if it applies to you, where you can go for more information. We have lots of communication that's coming your way, and we're working to improve that all the time. If there are other ways we can communicate, we're open to that feedback so that we can try to be as transparent in an accessible format as is meaningful to you, so please let us know. But again, any other of those additional questions, please reach out to your LSS strategist. You should have an email from them introducing themselves and how you can get in contact with them. But please reach out to them and let them support you through your journey. I'm assuming you've all crossed the threshold, so I want to welcome you to this incredible journey. I hope it is an incredibly meaningful, moving, and powerful experience for you. I hope that it helps you to achieve incredible things in your future. Again, the potential is unlimited at this point. So I'm excited to find out where you go from here, how it impacts you, your family, your communities, and ultimately the world. And with that, thank you so much for being here with us. I look forward to meeting you, and I am most excited to shake your hands as you go across the stage. With that, welcome to Nightingale College.